let's call the meeting to order. It's the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, May 19th, 2015. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Here.
Alderman Bekavich.
Here.
Verhaelen.
Here.
Tolman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag. Just an item for housekeeping purposes, I will maintain my vote as 5th District Alderman in tonight's activities. Mayor Scafidi is on business for the city, so we welcome his excused absence tonight. Item number 3, approval of minutes of the meeting of May 5th, 2015.
Gavich will make a motion to approve the minutes of 5/5/15 as listed.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item number 4, council proclamation to Grace Lutheran Church, in recognition of the church's 60th anniversary. I'll read that quickly.
Can you invite them up first?
Oh, folks in the audience from Grace here? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Beverly Beretta from Grace Lutheran, and this is Lynn and Robert Bazell,
Great.
also from Grace.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Alderman Tolman's a member?
30-year member.
Fantastic.
Thanks for
Come
coming
to stay
tonight.
with us. You're welcome.
Well, it's okay.
You'd rather vote. Okay.
All right, proclamation reads as follows. Proclamation of congratulations to Grace Lutheran Church in recognition of the church's 60th anniversary. Whereas on Sunday, May 31st, 2015, Grace Lutheran Church of Oak Creek will hold a celebration recognizing the church's founding in 1955, and whereas Grace Lutheran Church held its first service on Sunday, August 28th, 1955, and in December 1955, the congregation purchased a 2-acre building at 3401 East Putes Road for the purpose of constructing a church, which was completed and dedicated in 1957. And whereas Grace Lutheran Church built an educational wing which was dedicated in 1966, opened a Christian Day school at the site in 1980, and after purchasing land at 8537 South Pennsylvania Avenue, constructed and moved into a new school building in 1995 and established an early childhood center at Putes Road location. And whereas the congregation of Grace Lutheran Church has shown perseverance, hard work, and dedication to continued expansion, improvement, and growth in its home community, and whereas the city of Oak Creek has benefited tremendously from the valuable contribution of Grace Lutheran Church to the growth and stability of the entire community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Common Council of the City of Oak Creek that congratulations be extended to the Grace Lutheran Church upon its 60th anniversary and for its long-standing dedication to the community. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and the city clerk be, and she is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Grace Lutheran Church. Introduced at a regular meeting in the Common Council, City of Oak Creek, held this 19th day of May, 2015. Get a motion on that?
Can I add something?
Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Wannabe Mayor, can I call you, or acting mayor? Mr. Wannabe
Fill
Mayor.
in.
The chair.
Second fill.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Again, I'll say, I'm a proud member, a 30-year member at Grace, and the members we have here tonight. I know Pastor would be here tonight, but I think he's under the weather. And we support a school, a church, and a daycare center, and there's been challenges along the way, and that's in today's society, and the financial challenges that we're meeting at church is really something to be commended, and it's due to the members of the congregation, and also we're blessed through God's work too that we do. But so thank you for being here, and thank all the other members of the congregation for making our church a success for 60 years.
Well, on behalf of Pastor Doomer and Oak Creek, Grace, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll display it proudly.
Thank you.
Do you want to go get it, Bob?
Go get it. Go get it.
Do we have a motion?
Oh,
Sorry.
Someone will make a motion
Just a proclamation, sorry, we don't actually.
No,
Right,
no,
yeah.
if
All right.
if it's a council proclamation,
Okay,
take a vote,
great.
yeah.
Okay, Tobin will make a motion to adopt Council Proclamation Number 1504. Congratulations to Grace Lutheran Church in recognition of the church's 60th anniversary.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call?
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming.
Item number 5, council proclamation, congratulate Jeff Sagasser on the 2015 Oak Creek Citizen of the Year. I promised the folks, what is it, Friday evening, Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday evening, that I would not read it its entirety there, but I'll read it here for the record anyway. Jeff's a good man, and we're very happy to have Jeff honored as Citizen of the Year. Council Proclamation 1505, congratulations to Jeffrey Sagasser, 2015 Oak Creek Citizen of the Year, whereas the Oak Creek Citizen of the Year Committee conducts an annual search for the person who, in its judgment, is most deserving of the acknowledgement because of loyal, unselfish, and patriotic service to the community, and whereas the Oak Creek Citizen of the Year Committee has selected Jeffrey Sagasser as its 2015 Citizen of the Year, for which he will be duly honored at a recognition dinner. He was duly honored Sunday, May 17th, and whereas Jeff Sagasser is a lifelong resident of Oak Creek, is married to his wife Marge, has 2 children, Zachary and Kelsey, and whereas Jeff Sagasser attended Oak Creek Scanlon School and Oak Creek Junior High before graduating from Oak Creek High School in 1982, Jeff went on to obtain an associate's degree in accounting from Milwaukee Area Technical College. And whereas Jeff Sagasser was a Cub Master and Den Leader for 4 years, and from May 2002 through 2010 was a Scoutmaster Treasurer and served as a member of the Troop Committee. And whereas Jeff Sagasser has been presented with mentor pins at Eagle Scout ceremony for his work mentoring Eagle Scouts throughout their Boy Scout careers. Whereas Jeff Sagasser has been a member of the Oak Creek Band Scholarship Fund since 2008 and served as a Vice President from 2012 through June 2014, collaborating with others to help the organization grow and create ways to reach out and obtain new members. And whereas Jeff Sagasser was an Oak Creek Band parent helper from August 2005 through 2011, working with other parents to ensure students were prepared for their band functions and chaperoning band trips and competitions, providing band member safety. And whereas Jeff was a volunteer member and vice president of the Oak Creek Quarterback Club, which supports football-related activities at Oak Creek High School, and a volunteer member of the Knights Community Stadium Committee, participating in fundraising for the new Knights Stadium, and so on and so forth. That's going on for far too long, so we'll stop it there. But anyway, Jeff, a great recipient and a great representative for the city, and we're congratulating him once again as Oak Creek's 2015 Citizen of the Year. So we'll need a motion on that one as well for item number 5.
Kirkowski will make a motion to adopt Council Proclamation Number 15-05. Congratulations to Jeff Sagasser, 2015 Oak Creek Citizen of the Year. Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Public hearing tonight. Item number 6, to consider a request by Joe Tukotsky, Villa Healthcare and Apple Tower Development, Inc. to rezone portions of the properties at 8380, 8400, and 8432 South 27th Street from B4 Highway Business to RM1 Multifamily Resident with a conditional use amendment for a skilled nursing facility. Doug? Oh, Catherine, sorry.
Public hearing number 1 is to consider a request by Joe Tukotsky, Villa Healthcare and Apple Tower Development, Inc. to rezone portions of the properties at 8380, 8400, and 8432 South 27th Street from B4 Highway Business to RM1 Multifamily Residential with a conditional use amendment for a skilled nursing facility. The applicant is Joe Tukotsky, Villa Healthcare. The property owner is Apple Tower Development, Inc. There follows the legal description. Date of notice is April 16th, 2015.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Doug Seymour. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Oak Creek, and this is a public hearing on a request to rezone portions of the properties at 8380, 8400, and 8432 South 27th Street from B4, which is highway business, to RM1, which is multifamily residential, with a conditional use permit for skilled nursing facility. The properties are affected, or portions of the properties affected are shown on the screen in red. Villa Healthcare is proposing a one-story, 78,710 square foot facility totaling 72 units and 138 beds. It's primarily on the properties at 8400 and 8432 South 27th Street. I'm just going to pull up a concept plan right now. A small portion of the property at 8380 South 27th Street is also included for development of stormwater detention and landscape buffers. The proposed number of units, the 72 unit, again, 138 beds, is well within the density limitations of the proposed RM1 zoning district for efficiency in one-bedroom apartments. There would be access onto Honadel Boulevard to provide access for that entire facility. There is parking shown at 96 total stalls, and with a total of 50 employees, the number of parking spaces will be sufficient based on the institutional use, even though it's zoned RM1. Now, it's important to note that right now, we're not approving a site plan. So what you're seeing this evening and what you're hearing in terms of the numbers and what have you is important, but it is the Plan Commission's role to actually approve the site, building, landscape, lighting plans, and that would be done at a later date. When this item was brought before the Plan Commission, there was some concern from some of the neighboring residents regarding headlights possibly affecting their properties. And as such, it was recommended by the Plan Commission as part of the conditions and restrictions that accompany this conditional use permit, that additional landscaping treatment be incorporated in the plans that would be reviewed by the Plan Commission at a later date. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposed rezoning conditional use permit, and they have recommended its approval subject to conditions and restrictions which are included as part of your council packet. This is a public hearing, and I would ask that anyone has any questions or comments regarding the proposal to rezone the properties at 8380, 8400, and 8432 South 27th Street from B4 highway business to RM1 multifamily residential with a conditional use permit for a skilled nursing facility. Please approach the microphone, give your name and address, and proceed to address your questions or comments to the Common Council. This public hearing is now open.
Thanks, Doug. We'll make 3 calls for public commentary. Mr. Degner.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. I saw this listed, but the question I have is if this is fronting Honadel Boulevard and it requires sidewalks, will also sidewalks be provided on 27th Street, which is a major artery?
If I may, Mr. Degner, sidewalks ultimately would be provided along 27th Street, much like they're being provided as part of the 27th Street reconstruction project, but that project is not extending that far south. So at this point in time, there is no, given the cross-section of the roadway at that location, it would not be practical to put sidewalks there, given I believe it's a ditch cross-section. If Mike were here, he could corroborate that. But certainly, as the roadway is reconstructed, the roadway redeveloped, there would be sidewalk and multi-use path put in like there is running north of Drexel as part of the 27th Street reconstruction project.
That's unfortunate, because that means that the whole taxpayers are going to have to pay for that instead of the developer, which to me, it's a responsibility of the developer having this prime piece of property.
Thank you for your comments. Second call? Anybody? Name and address, please. Thanks.
Amy Shaneman, PDC Midwest, 1130 James Drive, Suite 106, Heartland, Wisconsin. I am the architect representing our client, Joe Tukoski, who is from Villa Healthcare. They are the land purchaser and owner and operator of what would be the skilled nursing facility. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be willing to answer them.
Great. Council may have some questions for you in a bit. Third and final call for public commentary. All right, no other commentary. We'll close the public hearing to the audience, open up to questions and comments from the council. Alderman Bekavich.
First and foremost, in the agenda, it's listed as 5th district. It's actually in the 2nd district, this parcel of land. I do sit on planning, and I'm not going to get into site specific over the landscaping because it is a zoning argument right here. Just to bring it to your attention, I'd be remiss. I have been contacted by some residents in Chateau 2 condominiums, which sit directly south of this unit. Their concern really is the traffic that'll be on Honadel and how to contain it to make sure it does go north into the facility and doesn't stray into their area or go farther up Honadel into Cortland. That's something we'll have to discuss along the way. Signage is probably going to be the answer. But just to give you a hit there, regarding the sidewalks, Apple Creek subdivision has no sidewalks. It is a subdivision within my district, but it's never had sidewalks, and nor does Honadel Boulevard. So it's just something, I don't know, that was before my time, why that subdivision went in without them, Doug. But it's just one of the rare subdivisions within Oak Creek that does not have sidewalks. And Doug pretty much summed up 27th Street regarding the sidewalks. So that's the input, what I got from the residents. But again, I did explain to them it fits the zoning, and it pretty much will probably go in. So that they were okay with. It was just a few nuances of the streets, so.
Alderman Guzikowski?
I agree with Dan. You know, I said I'm Plan Commission as well with him. Some of the concerns that were brought up by neighbors were the headlights that'll be, you know, shining into the back of the houses. Granted, this is just for show tonight, but their voices duly been heard, so we will take that to heart. And one of the other concerns that I have with Dan is going into the condos itself. There's no way to get out unless you start going through the subdivision if you miss the turn to get into this street for the nursing home. So somehow we got to do due diligence up front to show them how to get into the right, right, left to get into the access to the nursing home. That would be my concern. Thank you.
Alderman Kukowski?
This would be perhaps for the architect. Where would the delivery entrances be with regards, and I can't see this very well. Maybe it's because I don't have strong enough cheaters here. East side would be the delivery area, so the traffic for that would come onto Honadel and enter?
If I can speak, yes, all the traffic will come off Honadel. They will not have an entrance on 27th Street.
Okay.
So deliveries were going to go to the back. The front of the building, it was stated that it fronts Honadel. It does not front Honadel. It fronts 27th, technically.
So there wouldn't be, this isn't a major issue, but with regards to the residents' concerns, there could be appropriate signage with regards to weight restrictions and stuff to restrict truck traffic through the subdivision? If it comes to that, I'm not saying it.
Doug, do you want to speak? Basically, subdivisions are governed by weight restrictions now.
There are, I mean, much as the same as if a business were delivering to a home within the subdivision, they are allowed to do that.
Right.
It's just that essentially the weight restrictions apply to through vehicles, and not vehicles making deliveries within the subdivision. That would apply also to this facility as well, and maybe the architect can speak to that, but I don't anticipate that we're dealing with large trucks here. I think they're just service vehicles. Okay. And I believe that certainly the amount of traffic generated by this type of development is more than capable of being handled by Honadel Boulevard, and that the visual presence of this facility on the corner will be it'll be very clear as to where you need to go if you're visiting this facility, and there will be appropriate signage to indicate that as well. So I certainly hear and understand some of the concerns that were expressed by the neighbors. I believe that those can be reasonably accommodated as part of the site plan approval.
Okay, thank you.
Doug, and this is a skilled nursing facility, so we don't expect resident traffic. We expect, obviously, visitors and staff.
And staff, yeah.
And approximately 50 staff, when I read in the report?
At the largest shift.
At the largest shift. Any other questions, comments, motion?
got to close the public hearing and then go.
It's closed already.
Is it closed?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Kakavich will make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2766, approving the rezoning portions of the properties at 8380 South 27th Street and 8400 South 27th Street and 8432 South 27th Street from B4 Business to RM1 Multifamily Residential with a conditional use permit for a skilled nursing facility.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Item number 8, we're going to consider a resolution to approve a certified survey map for the properties at 9175, 9235, and 9325 South Fifth Avenue and 3975 East American Avenue. Ron, I see you're here, or Doug, you to introduce that?
Sure. Essentially, when this finally decides to wake up, here we go. This CSM, which is being requested by the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility, combines the properties, the aforementioned properties. This was held over. Actually, it was delayed in order to work on a few issues, but I'll let Ron describe the project to you if you have any questions about the project. But it has been being done to accommodate some expansion that they're doing and some new facilities that they are proposing and actually undertaking for the water treatment plant. So no new lots are being created. The lots are actually being combined. The CSM certainly puts within our land division ordinance, and the Plan Commission has recommended approval, and staff would recommend approval as well.
Great. Ron, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ron Pritzloff, Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility. As Doug mentioned, we're looking to combine our existing treatment plant property with the 3 properties you see to the north of the existing property. The reason that it is old business and we did hold it over during the course of our design and our geotechnical investigation, we did find a localized area of contamination in one of our soil borings. And at that point, we subsequently hired an environmental company to come in. We knew there was contamination. We didn't know exactly what the nature of it was at that point. So we hired an environmental company to come do a phase 1 investigation, environmental site assessment. They did that. They also took a few borings, limited in scope though, and we did find contamination that was, I guess, analogous to what the city had found across the street. At that point, we brought Mr. Haskin on board, as well as City Engineer Simmons and Sue Winnan from City Engineering to discuss how we wanted to go about this CSM item. At that point in time, we decided to hold the item so that we could get a little bit more information and determine better course of action. We've done that. We've engaged with City Attorney Haskin, as well as another environmental attorney named Art Harrington, as well as Ramble Environ, who is the city's consultant who has done the work for them across the street on the DuPont site. And I believe it's the Beezer location. So after having a meeting with them, we figured it would, we were advised that it'd be okay to go ahead and combine these properties. That's why I'm here now, and that's why it was held.
Great. Larry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason it was held was we wanted to make sure that there weren't any unintended consequences of combining the parcels from an environmental standpoint, from an environmental enforcement standpoint, from the DNR standpoint. And after looking at all the issues involved, determined that that was not going to be a problem, so that's why decided to proceed with the approval of the certified survey map. We're investigating the issue in terms of the contamination, pursuing claims against potentially responsible parties, against insurance carriers. It's being thoroughly investigated, and we're doing everything we can to protect the city's interests on this.
Great. Comments, questions from the council? Alderman Toman.
Is it too early, Larry, to discuss the contamination thing at this point? It sounds like it's just getting started.
It is, and I prefer not to go into the details
Okay.
here and,
Okay.
at this time in a public meeting,
It's really not part of this agenda either, right?
other than the fact that it's the same property, correct?
Okay, all right.
The one thing I would note for the council's information is that there are outstanding deferred assessments of $3,930 and change that must be paid prior to recording of this map.
That's not a problem.
They've got it.
So noted. No other comments, questions, motion on item number 8?
Can I just add some questions?
Sorry, Chris, yeah.
Same question as actually what Alderman Tolman brought up, so I'll wait till for further information down the road here.
Yes.
Great.
Thanks.
Motion then.
Okay, Toman will make a motion to adopt resolution number 11599, approving a certified survey map for the properties at 9175, 9235, and 9325 South Fifth Avenue, 3975 East American Avenue.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Mike? Right. Item number 9, consider a ordinance number 2765, amending section 4 of ordinance 2743 relating to the salary for the position of city attorney effective July 1st, 2015. Jerry?
At the council's last meeting, the mayor appointed and the council concurred with Melissa Carls as the new city attorney beginning July 1. It requires that we set the salary for that position. As the background indicated, what we're proposing is an annual salary of $84,600 that would become effective July 1st. Current salary is a little over $101,000, so there would be some savings from that. We would expect to have a consistent budget in 2016 to what we have in 2015 and be within budget during the current year.
Comments, questions from the council? Alderman Bekavich?
Has this been presented to Ms. Carls, and is she acceptable to it?
Yes and yes.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Motion on item number 9.
Bekavich will make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2765, amending section 4 of ordinance 2743 relating to the salary for the position of city attorney effective July 1st, 2015.
Guzikowski will second.
Kuzi? Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Item number 10 is to consider a motion to authorize the publication and write-off of the 2013 delinquent personal property tax per city policy. Any good excuse to have Barb in the audience is a good one, so.
It's just our annual, my annual request to authorize the publication in the amount of $16,525.08 of the 2013 delinquent personal property tax, and to write off the city portion of $5,252.52, which is the portion that we were not able to charge back to the other taxing jurisdictions.
Anything else in this process, Barb, you can educate the citizenry on to enlighten them?
I'm sorry, what?
Anything else you can enlighten the citizenry on in this whole process?
Well, we will still pursue collection, which is, obviously important to the citizens.
Great. Any, Dan?
You kind of covered it. Every year when this comes up, I get a slew of questions from people in the neighborhood why we're letting these people go with unpaid taxes. And we have to always explain just what Barb said. It's really clearing of the books, and we still go after the money. It's not like they're off the hook just because they didn't pay after 2 years, so.
Absolutely. I mean, they're turned over to collection agency. I mean, we do everything we can to collect.
Yeah, so just wanted to comment on that.
Great. Alderman Kukowski?
Dan covered my topics. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Good. Motion on item number 10.
Kokavich will make a motion to authorize the publication and write-off of the 2013 delinquent personal property taxes for city policy.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item number 11 is to consider a motion to purchase a VoIP phone system. Caesar, I assume?
Are we on?
Right here.
Okay, after I wrote this and I was thinking about it yesterday, I said, I never explained what VoIP was. So that's Voice over Internet Protocol. Basically, the phone lines that the phone company used to provide AT&T and other vendors were the standard copper analog lines. And the new phone systems now route everything through either fiber or still copper pairs, but they route through the internet instead of over the old going to the central office directly and through a switchboard there. So our new phone system, basically what we're proposing, the existing phone systems in the city were installed in 1999 and in 2002 at the police department. Nortel, the company that provided those systems for us, has been an excellent company, but they couldn't make money at the business anymore, and they've been broken up and bought out, and so they don't exist anymore as a separate entity. There still are Nortel phones out there, but it's not the same company anymore. We're talking about replacing with the new City Hall and Library. We need to install new phones and a new switch in there anyways, and we're looking at replacing all the phones in the entire city with the installation of the new fiber network. So we will have, again, just like we have now, we have a PBX at City Hall and we have one at the police department. We will have two servers, one at the new City Hall and one at the police department, which will be redundant backup servers. They'll sync together. In the event one goes down, the other one will take over, and the phone service will be seamless. So we're gonna purchase these two servers and the phones that go with them and replace the existing system. We will bring the new system up live, and the old system will be live at the same time. Once the new system has been thoroughly tested, we'll transfer over, and everyone at that point will be using the new system, with the exception of, we're anticipating starting this and having the PD phase done in July, the end of July. The new City Hall Library will get the new second server. The old City Hall and Library will still continue to use the old Nortel PBX until we move. So we will have both locations hot at the same time, in effect, as we program it. We went out, we went to the state bidding contract and we looked at the state bidders that were out there, and we bid the contract. We advertised the contract, invited the state bidders to bid on it. We received 5 bids back, which are on your second page there. I scrolled through all the items that I had written there for them, all the options that were available, and we ended up with a result of the Cisco Core BTS bid was the lowest bidder, and that's at the price that I have there, $176,027.55. That price is based on state contract prices. Cisco's desperate to get people to buy their stuff right now. They're really feeling the heat. They gave us $88,000 off of the state contract price on that, so to keep us in the fold. I know when I came here with the Cisco switch deal, they'd given us quite a discount there as well. But they're desperately trying to maintain their base and to show that they're not losing market share. And so at this point, that's where we're at. It would be installed in 3 phases. The police department first, all the other buildings except the City Hall and Library second, and the new City Hall and Library is the final phase of that. And So we would keep all the locations live. There would be no disruption in service at any location at all. Oh, yes. The budget does have, as I listed in the bottom there, the budget does have $200,000 budgeted for it. So we're $24,000 less than what was budgeted in the CIP for it. Are there any questions?
Alderman Kirkowski.
I understand Fire Station 2 is not getting fiber optics, so what's the plan
Right.
for those folks out there?
Actually, what's going to happen there will help them slightly. We're going to do two things for Fire Station 2. Right now, we have a T1 line that goes to Fire Station 2. It has 24 channels in it. They're 56K channels. And so right now, they have 8 phone lines at Fire Station 2. So they take 8 of the channels for the phones that they have there. So we have half. Well, they take 8 times 2 because there's two pair for each one. So we have less than half of that line, that T1 line, left for data. With the locution system, which also takes a pair of channels there, and freeing up that and freeing up the phones there, the whole T1 line will go back to data because all the VoIP phone system gets transmitted over data. So right now, the T1 line, those 16 channels that are there reserved for the phones can't be used by anything else, even though those people are not making calls on them all the time. So when we make it strictly a data pipe again, that data pipe will be available for computer use and other things when they're not making phone calls. And a VoIP phone system doesn't have the same data requirements that a standard phone does, so it won't take 2 channels even when they are making a call to make a call. The second part of that is later this year, once we get this fiber connected up, we are going to put in an Ethernet 5 or 10 meg pipe there to help alleviate that situation. And then the T1 will be the backup pipe, and we'll increase their bandwidth by, well, a T1 is the equivalent of 1.5 megabytes. So we'll be increasing it. It depends on cost yet. I'm still pricing that, but we'll either be tripling or, I don't know how you say 6 times it, but so we will be increasing that pipe. Oh, yes. The other thing is, right now we pay for PRIs, which are primes. We have one that goes into the City Hall for our phone system, and one that goes into the police department. And because of the cost savings, we're going to go to SIP lines, which are simple internet protocol lines. The SIP lines are cheaper, plus our long distance will now be going over the internet instead of the AT&T billing us 3 cents a minute for our long distance. So we're looking at potentially saving about $1,000 a month between the lower cost on the SIPs and the long distance savings.
I'm assuming all the phones that are being replaced are all owned by the city, so.
Yes, that is correct.
Catherine, more auction items.
We
About 328.
More auction items.
we will. Nextel does have a resale value, and I do have somebody already interested in our PBXs and in our phones.
Okay.
So I don't know yet what the price will be, but there's a lot of Nextel people out there yet, so there is resale value to that.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Bekavich.
Actually, Alderman Kirkowski chimed in on fire and it all got covered. Thanks.
Great. Alderman Guzikowski.
I'm glad to see it's under budget by $5 or $6 grand. That's good. It seems like it's a well thought out plan, and it looks like with the changes you're making with the data and everything, that Station 2 will still benefit. So that's good. The only one question I have is with us doing the dispatch for St. Francis, is there any type of concern with the phones, with the cutovers or anything, with them not having the same phone system as us? I don't know if there's any correlation or not.
No, I've worked with Mike Williams, the IT director. Well, I don't know. He's the IT consultant over at St. Francis, and we've already investigated this. They also have actually IP phones, but they deal with TDS instead of a different company. They have a hosted solution, and they're a much smaller organization. And the phones that will actually transfer over through the internet to us, so there is not an issue at all there.
Caesar, I did have one quick question.
Sure.
I'm not sure what responsibilities we have with the bidding process, but I see, you know, one line or two lines actually below the total price for the bid, there is a, you know, you're basically what, your total cost of operation or ownership line 4 years out, which is actually cheaper for a couple other alternatives. Is Cisco, is it preferential to use the Cisco system, or are these ubiquitous? And
What I did there to make them equal is, because they have two bid prices on maintenance. One is for maintaining the servers, which is a line item there, and then the second is for maintaining all the phones. And so to make them all equal, I said, okay, we're gonna assume that we're gonna maintain servers and phones with every company, just to make it equal as far as their bids go. The reality is, we will have maintenance on the servers, but we will not do the maintenance on the phones for the Cisco phones. So that 5,000, look here where it is, it's about 5,438.16 for the phones. That we will not be doing.
yeah, I'm looking really a couple lines above that though, Caesar. The 2017 455 versus there's two others just to the left of that, a little bit lower. So
Yeah.
have we
you're
budgeted,
looking
Jerry,
at
for
41,000?
you know, ongoing
Yeah,
service?
the 41,000 is the 491893 and the 543815 times 4. Those two items added together times 4 gives you 41,000. So if we went with total support from Cisco, it would be 41,000 for an additional 4 years. Well, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go with support for the servers at $49.18 a year, which is about 20,000 over 4 years, instead of the 41,000. Does that answer your question, or?
All right, so the 41,000 is really, that's not a relevant line in what we're looking at here?
Well, it would be if you went with that total solution, but
Okay.
it's not relevant in that we will not, no, any of these vendors that we went with, we would not have maintenance on the phones.
Okay.
Maintenance and support. But I asked for it as a bid item so that we could
Okay.
verify what it would cost.
And even though it's the next item, the bid on item 12 was not tied to this? They didn't have a group discount or?
They are totally independent.
Okay. No other questions?
Just if I may, I think the important thing that we try to do is not only look at the cost of the purchase, we try to look at what the maintenance comparisons are. And if you look at that line item, you'll see that these 5 vendors are very closely spaced. We've got all-in bids in terms of purchase and maintenance for 5 years that run from $203,000 to $228,000. That's very good. That's very good spacing. That means that they're all competitive, they're all tight, and we're looking at how we can reduce our cost. As Caesar said, we don't always buy the maintenance agreement. So when you go into the hardware store, you don't always buy the maintenance agreement on the washer. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. We do it when we expect that we're going to need it. In this case, we're not, so this really is the low bidder based on what we're expecting, but we think it's important to show that for apples-to-apples comparisons.
Great, thank you. Motion on 11.
Guzikowski will make a motion to purchase a VoIP phone system.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Excuse me.
Sorry, Larry.
I think the motion ought to clarify that as to who the bidder is here.
Sure.
We're gonna purchase it, but from whom?
And the amount.
And the amount, yes.
Duly noted by, so we're gonna do it
So it'd be,
by Cisco VoIP
there you
phone
go.
system
right.
from Core BTS Incorporated in the amount of $176,027.55.
Kirkowski will still second. Okay. Doesn't matter.
All right.
Everyone's good?
Go ahead.
All right, roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Great. Item number 12, consider a motion to purchase Cisco wireless access points and wireless access controller from Corp BTS in the amount of $38,147.20 for City Hall and Library project. Caesar.
Okay, basically what this is the city currently uses Cisco wireless access points, and we have a controller that controls the ones that we already have. We have approximately 15 wireless access points, just so you're aware. They work in this building. You're using them now if you have a device connected to them. We went out again for bids on this, and we based it off state contract, the bid prices. I had 3 different vendors that came back with their state contract pricing or less, ESG, Core BTS, and CEC. Basically, we're looking at, and in the new City Hall and Library, we're estimating 25 access points to cover both floors of the building and the center area to provide coverage for the public, the staff, and the library staff, as well as the City Hall staff. There'll be 3 SIDs there. One will be, SIDs are just identifiers on your wireless. There will be 3 SIDs there, one for the public, which will be a wide open SID, one for library staff to use, and one for City Hall staff to use. So depending on what type of device you have, how it's identified, you'll be able to connect to one of those 3 networks. And we do that for security reasons, to isolate them so that people can't connect to the City Hall staff network and hack our system or items like that, or flood our system with bandwidth. So looking at the bids, the low bidder there was the Ruckus system, but they did not include a controller, and they did not meet the criteria that we needed to be able to give us the 3 SIDs. So I had to rule them out for that reason. We would not be able to mesh that network together and eliminate unwanted network traffic, and we would not be able to isolate our city networks from that without going around and manually controlling each one of those controllers and adjusting them. And those controllers are all going to be mounted on the ceiling grid, up at the ceiling level, so it's not something that you want to be messing with. The other 2 bids were Maru and Cisco, and both those would have met the criteria that we wanted. The Cisco bid was cheaper. These bids include the installation in the new City Hall and Library, and they include the site survey. What we need to do is, right now we look at the building plans and you say, okay, this is what we think we need to cover the building. Then you actually walk out there once the walls are in place and you do a wireless survey to determine how well the penetration goes. Block walls and things like that are real barriers to wireless. And so then you're going to do a site survey at that point and determine actually how many units you need. The building is currently being wired to accommodate all these. There's wires in the ceiling for them, Category 6 cables. And we have switching already purchased for these. So the project was allocated for in the CIP item for the City Hall Library. And we already had money budgeted for it. We're not over budget on that aspect of it. We knew the cost approximately before.
Do you know what that was, Caesar or Jerry? What we had pegged for that?
This is actually what we had pegged for it.
Okay.
The 38,000. Yeah, we had 775 total of that.
Okay.
We had 38,000 budgeted for this. So we were, when we were doing the budgets for that, I already had a good handle on what this price was going to be, what I thought it was going to be. If we would have gone with the Maru, it would have been obviously off just slightly, but I had a real good idea of what it would be. So at this point, I'm recommending that the other advantage to the Cisco bid is we have one wireless controller now. Again, like the servers before, you program them together, they're backup for each other. So if one location goes down or one unit fails, the other one just automatically picks up, and nobody's the wiser that the other controller is operating and running all the access points. So it gives us additional redundancy.
Great. Questions, comments? Motion?
Yeah.
Kirkowski will make a motion to purchase Cisco wireless access points and wireless access controllers from Core BTS, Inc. in in the amount of $38,147.20 for the new City Hall Library.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Item number 13, consider a motion to authorize the finance director controller to enter into contracts with Point and Pay for acceptance of credit cards, subject to technical revisions by the city treasurer and city attorney's office. Bridget. What is that noise?
Two microphones.
There you go, thank you.
All right. Roughly a year ago, Caesar, Barb, myself, and Corinne, our deputy city treasurer, as well as Gail from the municipal court, began meeting to discuss city's needs in terms of being able to accept credit cards as a form of payment for city services, bills, etc. In that process, we had to identify which departments and which areas currently accept credit cards, and that's varied throughout the departments right now. Recreation is currently collecting credit cards with one vendor, municipal court is using a different vendor, and the treasurer's office is using another vendor. It's mismatched, and we were hoping moving forward in the future that we could find a vendor that would be unified, that we could all work together, have similar procedures and similar policies relating to credit card acceptance. We put some information out there and ended up having demonstrations from 3 different vendors where we reviewed their services, their fees, and the potential for them to offer efficiencies to city staff and to the different departments. In going through that process and in discussing as the team, we felt that Point and Pay was the best option for the city to go with. They had comparable fees to the other 2 vendors, and they also offered a great efficiency of being able to integrate into our new software of BS&A. So that is an efficiency, most importantly in the treasurer's office where the cash receipting is happening, that really is a huge benefit for that area. Part of the complications that we got into in terms of the fee structure, and bear with me because I really want to give you this information to give you the good picture of what's happening right now. Currently, municipal court collects credit card payments, or rather accepts them at their counter with a leased machine with one vendor, and they absorb the fee that they are currently paying on that. With the new vendor, they will be able to accept in person, over the phone, which is through a secured line that the vendor offers, as well as online. The judge would like to continue to accept the fees on this for fear that people may stop paying. I have spoken with her and said that if the council chooses, that is an option that we can continue unless she hits budgetary restraints. Meaning we'll be looking at it and comparing what she's essentially been absorbing currently, and if that increases, then we'll need to continue to talk about that. Recreation currently accepts credit cards in person as well as online. They also absorb their fee. We've had communication with the rec department, and they at one point in time in the recent history, they switched to charging the user that fee, and they saw their use of that as well as their registrations drop. So they reverted back to absorbing that fee. Right now, with some of the staffing changes and things that are going on at Recreation, the current thought process is that they will stay with that current vendor for about another 5 months until we can get them through their process and their busy season, and then try to move them into Point and Pay, which also integrates directly into RecTrack, which is their programming system. Third and final for credit card acceptance is the treasurer's office for taxes only, and that is also only online and over the phone with a third vendor. So that would change dramatically for residents and people coming in paying the bills through the treasurer's office where they would be able to continue doing an online as well as over the phone, but also at the counter. And that is something that we are asked frequently, and we have to answer no. So with giving you perspective of where we're at currently, the proposed, thank you, the fee through the treasurer's office is not absorbed. The residents pay that fee currently. So the proposal would be point and pay is looking for 2.39% for tax payments and 2.75% with a minimum of a $2 charge on all other payments. So taxes is the only one that has the different because of the large dollar amounts, they lower the percentage. The 2.75 is across the board for everything, for court, for rec when they choose to come on, for a building permit, whatever payment they would choose to make. So with the resident paying that service charge, the thought process behind that is it's an option. It's a choice that the resident or the individual paying has to pay or would choose to use versus check or cash, and that's where the charge would come in. It is a phased-in process for implementation. The municipal court is the first one that we need to get in and get live with a new system because of the phone system change at the end of July. They no longer will have the appropriate phone line or phone jack for their leased piece of equipment. So we need to ensure that they don't lose the ability to accept credit card payments. Then we would probably work with everything except taxes until we are done with tax collection to then go forward so we don't confuse changing those systems while taxes are still being collected. And the memo was written subject to some technical revisions with Barb and with Larry because we had people out of the office and we were trying to get it on the agenda so that we could discuss it.
Mr. Degner.
Mr. Chairman, Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm concerned with this end run around the elected city official entering into a staff person to enter into a contract. Most of our other contracts with the city are signed by elected officials. And to me, this is the way it should go instead of ignoring our elected officials. And I would like to see that change then to a city treasurer making a contract.
Thank you, Mr. Degner. Maybe Jerry could shed a little light on our thresholds for action.
I don't believe there's a specific dollar amount. We have professional service agreements. We have some contracts that are signed by staff members and some by the elected officials. I don't think that's an issue. If the council wants to do that, we can do it that way. We've done it both ways.
Yep. Sorry, Bridget. Other than what I gather is municipal court and rec department, there essentially is no cost other than the initial purchase of the swipers for?
Correct. That's what I was going to chime in with. There isn't, except for the purchase, if the
vendor makes their money on their fee.
Right. There isn't even a essentially dollar amount that the contract is for. The contract is just simply for providing that
So this is all
service.
about providing an opportunity or a choice for the customer to make how they wish to pay. Sorry, Alderman Kukowski.
No, disregard. I'm satisfied.
City Attorney Haskin?
Yeah, to Arden's point, certainly the council can authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the contract. I mean, that's not a problem. The important thing is, Arden, that the common council is approving the contract. And they're the governing body, and they're the ones that should be approving the contract. So whether it's signed by the mayor, the clerk, or by the finance director, controller, it's at the direction of the council. So whatever the council's pleasure is.
May I address the council? That isn't what the agenda says.
Right,
The
right,
agenda says enter into the contract.
Right.
Which means the individuals listed,
right. And,
not the council. According to this, it doesn't.
well, but
I'm confused then,
the
or
council's approving it, Arden. And if I'm saying, even though that the report says and the agenda says for the finance director to sign the contract, that if the council wants to, they can say that the mayor and the clerk should sign the contract. I'm trying to acknowledge your
most of
point.
the contracts I've seen always have to be signed by an official.
It's whoever the council determines can sign it. So if they decide that the mayor and clerk should sign, we'll hear in their motion in just a moment.
Yeah, it's an end run, as far as I'm concerned, around our city officials.
There's no attempt here to do any end run, I can assure you.
Many contracts, Arden, are signed by staff members.
I think what I'd like the council and the public that's in the audience and viewing this to really be left with, that this really is going to result in some pretty significant service option improvements to the public, where we have very limited options depending on which department they're in to use credit cards. We're going to broaden that usage rather significantly, and whether you're a building homeowner or a building contractor that's paying building permits, or the tax bill, or you're paying court fines, you might find that convenient to do that in person over the internet, which we really don't have available to us right now. And this has really been a long time in coming. It's something that we've identified on a staff basis that's been needed. And as you can see, because we have various vendors, we had some different thoughts on this, a fair amount of work had to take place internally to get to this point that made sense. There's also this issue of phones in terms of analog and digital, and I won't bore you with it, but end point here, this would be a service level improvement to the public. People wouldn't pay the fee if they didn't want to use this. There's other options available, so it's an option that's not currently available, and the costs are borne by the user for the most part. The machines, I think, are $75 a piece, and we're buying 12 of them, so it's really a minimal expenditure.
Thanks, Jerry. Alderman Guzikowski.
So if somebody, just for instance, humor me for a minute, if somebody was out and they were trying to get a building permit, I don't know if they always have to come here to get the building permit, but in theory, could they pay, if there was an inspector on site and they wanted to pay something right away? I don't know if there's ever a cause for it or not, but.
Not on site with the inspector.
Okay.
However, we do have a portion of the new software that we purchased that has an internet services function with the building module. And so we don't have that up and running yet. We're still working on that. But in the near future, there will be certain types of permits that don't require immediate sign off or a certain level of paperwork and inspections, that you will be able to fill out those permits online through the software. You also will be able to pay for it using this credit card situation and combining the two.
Thanks, Bridget. I think this really gives our citizens a lot of options here for payment. So thank you for thinking about this and going through the act here.
Any other questions, comments? I'd agree with Alderman Guzikowski. More options, the better, I think, for our citizenry. So motion on item number 13.
Kirkowski will make a motion to authorize the finance director, comptroller, to enter into contracts with Point and Pay for acceptance of credit cards, subject to technical revisions by the city treasurer and city attorney's office.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Hillman.
Aye.
Moving on, item 14, consider a motion to designate the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, or Oak Creek Now, to serve as the official city newspaper for the next 12 months. Appreciate your presence. Jerry?
I think the background points out that for the last number of years, we put bids out. We don't get bids in by the bid date. We typically get them afterwards, and we got one quote for it, and that's your option. Anything more to add, Catherine, on that?
No, this was an unusual year because we didn't receive any bids by the deadline. And so we did have to go back, but it's important to note that they are, there is a decrease in the charges this year. And so really without an option, it's the recommendation.
Alderman Toman?
My annual rant. What do we spend on this a year? What's approximately? I don't need a penny to the.
Every year, this was my first meeting, was dealing with this. This was the mayor's first question to me, and I didn't know it. Every year since I know it. So in 2014, we spent $5,576.10.
Okay.
Got it to the penny.
Yeah.
To the penny.
When are we gonna? Not a shot at the now. Don't take this personally, but I mean, when are we gonna stop spending this? Nobody reads this stuff anyway. Just my annual rant.
It's a legal requirement.
I know, but when is that gonna be changed?
Talk to your
Onward.
legislators.
Onward.
There was some debate about changes to that this year, I think.
There was some legislation being introduced this year that we're going to give some options to publish certain items online. I don't know whether that's made it through the legislature yet, but that's the first time I saw that. I saw some discussion of those options that were out there. It was not for all notices. They started to talk about Class 1, Class 2 notices. So we may see that in the future where certain notifications and publications would be online rather than in publications.
Somebody's actually looking at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was discussion this year as part of this legislative session.
Okay, cool.
They're listening to you, Mike.
All right.
Anything else, gentlemen? Motion on item 14.
Kirkowski will make a motion to designate the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Oak Creek Now to serve as the official city newspaper for the next 12 months.
Bekavich will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
No.
Gale.
Aye. A protest vote. It's okay. Item 15, vendor summary report. Bridget, any notable highlights that you'd like to mention?
Of the $2 million that is here for approval for you tonight, $1.6 million of that is in construction costs, furniture costs, consulting for the new City Hall, library, and fire station. So as everybody's aware, we continue to be full speed ahead and keep moving the invoices through. This was also our second run in the new system. The report is still not looking like I want, so maybe the third time's a charm.
In the item number 1, I noticed that it's listed as just for recycling. That is actually split recycling and trash. It's included in that total. Alderman Bekavich.
Question on item 2, 35-7 for bus shelters at Drexel Town Square. Any chance, seeing as they're county buses, that they'll pay for the shelters? No, wishful thinking.
Ultimately, we're not going to pay for any of these shelters. We have 2 different private companies at Drexel Town Square that's going to take one each, and we're going to try to actually get all 4 of them taken care of by that. If they don't, it's going to be the TID is going to pay for the remaining 2. So we're running those through and purchasing. We're going to get reimbursed 100% on this.
On the 35.
Yeah, Myers already agreed to one, and we're hoping the medical facility is going to take one too.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So we're working with them to try to sponsor the shelter.
Are all, excuse me, are all of the facilities going to be the same, or are they?
All shelters are exactly the same, and they're really
Coming from
actually
the same vendor as well?
they're very nice. They're a very nice shelter. They fit in with the general style of DTS. We worked pretty hard on that.
Jerry, you said their sponsorship. Are they actually going to advertise on them, or are they just?
No, we're not going to allow them to sponsor. They're just going to pay for them. We like that a lot.
That's a good way. We like that too. Any other questions? Motion then on 15.
Bekavich will make a motion to approve the 2015 vendor summary report in the amount of $2,036,709.32.
Verhaelen, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Item 16, consider motion to concur with the Personnel Committee's recommendation and increase the number of full-time streets, parks, and forestry department labor driver positions from 4 to 5. I see Ted's here.
Yeah, we brought this to the Personnel Committee, and one of the primary reasons that we brought it is the number of beds and different plantings that we're going to undertake this year. Especially, it's more of a kind of a beautification on Putes, Howell, and Drexel Avenue, in addition to the new plantings that we'll be maintaining along Ryan Road with the new construction over there. We also anticipate some additional work when Drexel Town Square is completed. So what we would like to do is hire another labor driver position and primarily have them work on maintaining some of this, especially during the growing season. And one person wouldn't be enough to do this. So we plan on having them work with a few part-time employees, the seasonal workers that come in the summer. To pay for this, we're looking at using some of the excess funding in our accounts from some of the retirements of some of the top scale people. Each top scale person that retires with the labor driver leaves us about $23,000 in additional funds, and so it would be more than enough to cover this individual.
Alderman Verhaelen.
I've got a couple questions. First question is the person that's going to be hired, is this going to be an outside hire or somebody that's already within the system, they're just getting promoted?
We plan on going through, we're going to post internally.
You're going to post internally
Absolutely. We'll look and post internally and see who's interested internally. If we don't have any or don't find a candidate, then we will go outside. But we'll certainly post internally first.
So actually we're taking somebody that's part-time and making them full-time if they would decide.
Potentially, yes.
Take the position. All right. In the event that you don't get anybody from the inside, are we still going to fill that position on an outside hire, or what's the plan?
We would at that point, but we've got a couple of people that I believe are interested in the position internally.
All right, and then the other thing I had a question on, and this would go more to personnel, people around personnel, I guess, because you guys reviewed it, but was there any consideration, since this is more of like a seasonal type job, if it was ever considered to go with another full-time, part-time person, or actually to hire a private landscape company to do that work for us? That was ever considered? Because I mean, there's all kinds of private companies around Oak Creek, big and small, that hire landscaping companies to maintain their.
Well, we did price out a couple years ago, Jerry. Remember, if you recall, we did get quotes on grass cutting in particular. We found it actually pretty expensive because all our grass cutting is done by seasonal part-time people, so the cost-wise really did not make any sense for us at that time. And Ted was able to generate enough, he thought, work in the wintertime for this position that it made sense to bring a full-time job on.
One of the things that this individual will also do in the winter is right now a lot of the parkways in that are maintained by parks employees. One of the reasons we wanted to make this a labor driver is because they're required to get CDLs, and with some of the additional roadways with Lake Vista Park and Drexel Town Square roadways and that, we feel we're going to either have to add another driver onto some of our plow routes to cover some of that, especially with some of the intense areas in Drexel Town Square that are really going to require a lot of cleaning because there's no real area to plow the stuff off to. You're almost going to have to haul it away.
Anything else there, Mark?
No. I just wanted to know if you guys considered any, because it was a seasonal thing and it was basically the median strips on the roads and stuff. I didn't know if it would have been feasible to go full-time versus find an outside contractor. That's the only question I had.
Okay, good. Alderman Kukowski.
Ted, I broached this topic briefly with Jerry, and I haven't had a chance to research it any further. One of my shall we say, concerns with the time and money spent by your department is taking care of the softball field and the baseball field at Abendschein for the school district that they don't pay for. You absorb that costs. And I would like to know, obviously you can't tell me tonight, what is spent by your department taking care of the school district stuff that they don't reimburse? Because that is something where either they should be doing it or they should be reimbursing the city. I know the guy who does that takes great pride in making sure those fields are playable for the high school games. But I think that's an area that the city can absorb or can recover those costs.
We do have, I would have to add them all up, and so I'd be able to provide you with the exact
Yeah,
number.
Steve, that's probably a conversation we can have.
Yeah.
I understand that, but we're talking about adding a person to his department, and his department is doing stuff that I feel is being done for the school district that they're not paying for. So I just want that to be considered.
Yeah. Sure.
That's all.
Sorry.
Recognize that concern. We're under contract with the school to do that as part of the use of the facility, and it's something that we'll have an opportunity to look at again when we renegotiate that. But what I would point out to the council is Ted and his staff have done a good job, I think, of identifying all of the areas that we do mow. You can see 240 hours a week in terms of mowing and trimming. In terms of all of the park acreage we have 270 acres that we're maintaining. We identify all of that. I think it's powerful, and I think these are good questions and tough questions that the community and the council asks us in terms of what kind of work we're doing. So we're tracking exactly, not we're doing a lot of work. Here's really what we're doing, and I think then you can bring that to bear in terms of, you know, your own observations about what it takes to mow. We're basically taking 6 FTEs or 6 full-time equivalents to go through and cycle through the entire grass cutting. And I believe there's 3 routes that aren't on this list that we're still developing. So that is a very, very significant issue on the part of the council. The council was good enough to approve several mowers a couple years ago when we weren't able to keep up. And I think you see this year, even with fairly wet conditions, I think we're doing a lot better in terms of the maintenance of the parks. And I wouldn't say that we've got the medians where we want. We're staying away from the construction. Once that gets out of there, we'll do a better job on the medians. I think that's going to be a tough road to hoe until we get that grass growing in. We've got the fabric down there. We got to let it grow in before we get on those, so it's going to look bad for a little bit. But I think once that grass grows in, you're going to see a real significant improvement in effort on the medians as well.
Alderman Bekavich?
You know, just to kind of weigh in, Mark, I mean, I'm on personnel too, and honestly, we didn't look outside on this position, you know, to go with a private landscape company. We felt there was enough work with the medians and what's happening inside Drexeltown Square. The snow removal, so that all got answered. But as long as we're on it, Steve asked a question about Abendschein. I also sit on parks, and just about 2 years ago, we flopped over the rec department. That's actually in an MOU. It's the same with picking up the garbage and what have you. And don't hold me to the exact numbers, but it was pretty much a wash at the time. And like Jerry said, if you want to renegotiate that, I don't know, it comes up every 4 or 5 years. But you know, we would get used to their facilities, and it was considered an even trade-off at the time along the way. So that's it.
All right, Alderman Tolman?
As far as the discussion personnel goes, we did have other alternatives that we may be looking at in the future as far as funding this position. I think once people see, I mean, a lot of the mediums have been neglected by the county mainly, and now that we're going to make an effort to put some money into this for maintenance, I think once the businesses see what the medians are going to look like, especially adjacent to Drexeltown Square, we talked about possible contributions from those businesses. And also, even if it's not in the form of cash or to help out with the budget, possibly a piece of equipment that could help maintain the medians in the form of mowers or whatever it takes. So those ideas are still being explored. Thank you.
Great. Alderman Guzekowski.
My question's been answered, thanks.
Anything else, gentlemen? Great. Motion on item 16.
Tolman will make a motion to concur with the Personnel Committee's recommendation and increase the number of full-time Streets, Parks, and Forestry Department labor driver positions from 4 to 5.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
License Committee. Alderman Kirkowski.
Okay, the License Committee did not meet prior to the council meeting. Tentative recommendations are as follows. Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to the 8 individuals that are listed on the agenda. Unless you want me to write all,
No, it's okay. Gail will second. Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Item 18.
Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a temporary Class B beer license with a waiver of fees to the Oak Creek Celebrations Commission, Carolyn Bukevitz, agent for the Oak Creek Celebrations Pig and Chicken Roast, September 13, 2015.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Item 19.
Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event run-walk permit to Madeline Cross, agent for the Unified Relay Across America event to be held on Sunday, June 14, 2015.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Item 20.
Kirkowski will make a motion to grant amusement operator and amusement devices license to the 5 companies that are listed on the agenda.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Great, thank you. Moving on then. Item 21 is consider a motion to convene in the closed session immediately following the conclusion of the common council meeting pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute Section 19.85 Sub 1 Sub C Sub E Sub G to discuss a medical termination and settlement agreement for a police officer.
Guzekowski will second.
I actually have to make the motion first, Chris, sorry. So, Gail will then formally move to convene in the closed session immediately following the conclusion of the common council meeting pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 Sub 1 Sub C Sub E Sub G to discuss a medical termination and settlement agreement for a police officer.
Guzekowski will second.
There we go. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
We'll now convene in the closed session. Thank you. Welcome back. Well, item number 2 is consider a motion to reconvene in the open session.
Tolman will make that motion.
Guzekowski seconds.
Roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, based upon the discussion in closed session, it's my understanding that there will be a proposed motion to approve the agreement with Sergeant Dean Kleinhans regarding his separation from his employment with the City of Oak Creek, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the City of Oak Creek.
Tolman will make that motion as stated.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Motion for adjournment.
Kirkowski will move to adjourn.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Thanks. Good evening.